Good morning, everyone. Let us start with the next part, next point in this particular module, which is related to the interface coordination and concurrent engineering. So this part we have seen in the previous session, work breakdown structure, linear responsibility chart. So first of all, we will try to understand what is this interface coordination is all about. The most difficult aspect of implementing the plan for a complex project is the coordination and integration of the various elements of the project so that they meet their joint goals of performance, schedule, and budget in such a way that the total project meets its goals. So, as we have discussed before, also, project itself is an complex entity because there are so many parameters, so many resources, so many departments, so many multiple activities they are involved. And whenever you are thinking of implementing the plan for a complex project, what is the most difficult part is nothing but coordination of the various activities, various people involved in project. And with this coordination, it is also essential and crucial to have the integration of the various elements of your project. This coordination and integration of various elements is essential. For what purpose? They are essential so that the joint goals for performance, whatever you have set, the goals, whatever we have set for schedule, and the budget, what we have prescribed, that the project should meet. As the project becomes more complex, drawing on knowledge and skills from more areas of expertise and thus more subunits of parent organization as well as more outsiders, the problem of coordinating multidisciplinary teams becomes more troublesome at the same time, and as a result, uncertainty is increased. So, whenever we have the complexity of the project going in the increasing manner, complexity is increasing, the skills and knowledge from various areas of expertise or from various domains to bring them together. Also, these skills and knowledge, what you are bringing them together, it may be from different subunits of your organization, or sometimes maybe from some people or organizations which are outside your parent organization. Now, when you are trying to club, when you are trying to bring all these things together and trying to get output, trying to get certain definite outcome from this, the major problem what we are going to face is the coordination for the multidisciplinary teams. That is MT, capital MT is nothing but multidisciplinary teams. So this particular problem for coordination, this becomes really troublesome, and because of this particular problem of coordinating the multidisciplinary teams, the uncertainty gets increased. The result of this problem in coordinating the multidisciplinary teams results in increased uncertainty for your project. So as the project proceeds from its initiation through the planning and into the actual process of trying to generate the project deliverables, still more problems arise. So this is the interface coordination is not only limited, or it is not limited for its existence only for a particular phase. So whenever you are moving ahead from the initiation of the project, then planning the project, then execution, monitoring and control, and finally the closure of your project, in each and every activity, as you move further, the complexity of the project and the problem of this coordination will go on increasing, and as you have more and more complexity in the various activities, the problem of this coordination will be increasing. The problem of coordination will go on arising multiple locations in your project organization. Rather than operating as a team, the people or the expertise, whatever they are involved, they work as separate and distinct parts. So many times the people, they are included in a particular team, but when they are working, they are not working as a team member. They work as a separate entity. They work as a distinct part, distinct entity in that particular project team. So it it tries to, or it will create the problem of having lack of coordination, or it will be creating a gap between the coordination of the various team members in your project team, each of which has its own task and is not much interested in other parts. So these particular people who work as separate entity, separate unit, they are not much interested in what other people are doing, what will be the effect of their work on the particular project, whether their work is correlated with some other people work. What they have is only they have their task in mind, and they only work to achieve that particular task. They are least bothered about what is the effect of this task or this work, what they are doing on the overall project objectives or the overall performance of your team. So these are some of the problems which they arise, and they go on becoming severe during the complexity of the project, which is increasing. The intricate process of coordinating the work and timing of different groups is called as integration management. So we have seen the first knowledge area whenever we have seen the module number 1, and in that we have gone for understanding, or we have tried to uh, identify the 10 knowledge areas which are defined by Project Management Institute in their handbook, Project Management Body of Knowledge, correct, PMBOK. So how many knowledge areas are there? Can anybody tell? You can put your answer in chat box. How many knowledge areas that are defined by Project Management Institute in their book PMBOK, Project Management Body of Knowledge? Quick. Number of knowledge areas: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, whatever you know, just put the number in your chat box. How many knowledge areas they have been defined? Outi says 10. What about others? Knowledge area word has been, yes, Rajesh says 10. Yes, there are other people also in the meeting. Aniket says 10. Okay. So others are also, I hope they are agreeing that there are 10 knowledge areas. And the first knowledge area out of these all is nothing but the project integration management. This knowledge area, when we have discussed in brief about all the 10 knowledge areas, that time also we discussed, even though this is the first knowledge area, project integration management, it is not a separate entity. It is nothing but coordination and integration of all the further knowledge areas, 9 knowledge areas, what we are going to see. When you are combining it together, coordinating it properly, integrating them into the project, then we say that this is knowledge area number 1, which is project integration management. So what that project integration management is all about? It is nothing but the process of coordinating the work and schedule of the different groups which are working on your project. So when I say different groups, we may say different process groups, different groups in your project team who are working for that particular project. So that is all about your project integration management. Okay. Now, the term interface coordination, it is used to denote the process of managing this work. This work means the work of integration management across multiple groups. So when you are going to execute the process of integration management across multiple groups in which are working for the completion of your project, that particular process we call it as the interface coordination process. So interface coordination is similar to the integration management, but in this integration management, we are trying to execute for multiple groups, or we are trying to execute across the work which is carried out by multiple groups for your project. So that is nothing but your interface coordination for that particular project. Now, whenever you are going for this interface coordination process, you should have certain data in hand. You should have certain information with you, because when you want to coordinate the activities, you should know what are the various activities, what is the sequence of execution of those particular activities, who will be responsible for executing the activity, and what is the role of that particular person in the performance of that activity. So these all information, if you want to have, it is always better, it is always advantageous if your organization has prepared a linear responsibility chart. If the linear responsibility chart is prepared well in advance, that chart will serve as a very useful tool for the project manager to carry out the work of this interface coordination. If you have attended the previous session, you must be remembering what is this linear responsibility chart. If you are absent, or if you are not still remembering, I am again projecting the linear responsibility chart in front of you. So what you feel, what you visualize from this linear responsibility chart, on left hand side first column, you have all the activities which are listed to be the part of your project. These activities, they have been listed according to when they are going to get executed in their sequence. And in front of each activity, in each column, what are these all columns? These columns are for the multiple people who are actually related to your project, the various teams which are related to carrying out the work for your particular project. So for each particular activity, if you go in that row and try to understand the various numbers which have been given in individual columns, you will come to know that which particular people, or which particular group of people, or which particular process group is involved in carrying out that activity, and to what extent his responsibility will be associated with that activity. So let us say, if I consider the activity like establish software specifications, so you can see the manager for software, he will be the in charge, or he will be the main responsible person for carrying out the activity, because he has been assigned number as 1. And when the number 1 is assigned, it is nothing but the person or group of people who will be having the actual responsibility to carry out that particular task. Then you can see for the same established software specifications, number 2 is specified for general manager, so he will be having the general supervision. Number 3 is specified for project manager, so he will be he must be consulted when this particular activity is going on, and when you are establishing the software specifications, he must be consulted and he should be giving you the approval for those particular changes or those particular specifications. Then the number 4 is specified for manager engineering and manager marketing. So these people may be consulted, not compulsorily. The point number 3 or number 3 indicates that particular person or authority must be consulted in order to complete the process or in order to execute the process. Number 4 indicates they may be consulted. If they are consulted, it may be useful, it may be a value addition to your particular process. Sometimes even if you don't consult, maybe the value addition will not be there, but your process will not stop, your process will be executed. So they are not that important, but if they are consulted, it will be definitely adding certain value to your project process. So likewise, this is the linear responsibility chart. So simply having a work breakdown structure or organizational breakdown structure is not sufficient, because work breakdown structure can give you simply the various activities and how they are going to get performed. But when you go for linear responsibility chart, you get all the information: what is the activity, which people are involved, and what is their role in that particular activity. So all these things will be known to you. And as you are knowing that which people are involved in what particular activity, this chart will be very useful to you if you are going as a project manager and doing the task of this interface coordination. So let us say in establishing the project plan, number 1, project manager, he is the actual responsible person, and the general supervision is done by the general manager, and the people who are need to be consulted are engineering management, software management, manufacturing management, then marketing manager. So these are all the people, they should be consulted, they must be consulted. Now when you are consulting, we need to take their feedback, we have to convey them the updates, we have to take their uh, various opinions, we need to again convey these opinions to the general manager because he is going for general supervision of your process. Finally the vice president is going to approve it, that is number 6 is mentioned. So all this deliberation should be conveyed to the vice president and get it approved. If there are certain changes before approval, again they need to be conveyed to the respective people. So likewise, a lot of coordination work will be essential in that particular activity. The activity seems to be very simple, establish project plan, but you can see the number of people, number of process groups, they are involved in that particular activity. And when there are number of people involved from different sectors, different functional units, it is very important that there must be a strong interface coordination between the people, between the departments, between the functional areas, between the levels of authority, between your hierarchy on the same level, as well as means we can say it is uh, in the lateral organization as well as in the vertical organization chart. We should have this everywhere, interface coordination in place. So that is why this linear responsibility chart will be a very useful tool for the project manager to carry out the task of interface coordination. This interface coordination will be displaying the various ways the members of project team must interact, and what are the rights, what are the duties, and what are the responsibilities of each member in that particular project. So this interface coordination, when it is displaying this, it will take into account the people who are involved, from all the people who are involved in your project. They may be the people within your organization, it may be the people, it may be the person or some organization or some agency who might be your client. You should also take into account the various vendors who are going to supply you certain resources, human resources, non-human resources, and of course the project team and the authorities within your organization. They all must be taken into account when you are going for this interface coordination. After understanding this interface coordination, let us move to the next point. Let us move to the next concept what we have to learn, which is nothing but concurrent engineering. I hope those who are mechanical engineering students, automobile engineering students, at least they must have heard this word before this semester 8, somewhere in PPC or in some other subject. Have you heard this word earlier, concurrent engineering?
Yes, sir. In
Yes. What?
triple C and PLM also.
Okay. So what that concurrent engineering is all about?
Sir, the any work is carried with the team and skills person in that team.
Any work is carried with the help of team and skills of the persons inside the team. Anything else? Anybody else? You wish to add something to what Chinmay is saying? Concurrent engineering. He said in triple C as well as in PLM, this word was coined, this word was understood.
Sir, this is also known as sequential engineering, na?
Which? Concurrent engineering?
Yes, sir.
No, 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 no. So instead of going for this theoretical, let us try to go for first the diagram. So using this diagram, I hope the things will be more clear. If you go for the conventional type of engineering, conventional manufacturing process, especially if you are talking about manufacturing sector, then the conventional process is generation of your idea, then you will go for product design, then you will go for manufacturing, then you will go for assembly of the components, and then your product will be ready, and then you will going for maintenance of those all parts which are involved in that. So that is nothing but the sequential way of conventional manufacturing process, conventional product development process. So if you see the overall time which is taken by this conventional process, as we are going for one process at a time, and once you start with the process, you are not stopping unless and until that process is stopped. Then you are going for next. If you go for next process and you come to know there are some drawbacks, there are some flaws in your previous process, there are very less chances of going for rework, because already you have gone for certain duration of time which have been spent on completion of the previous process. So overall lead time of your product will go on increasing if you go for this sequential or conventional traditional process of product manufacturing or completion of a particular project. Other than this, if you go for concurrent engineering approach, then concurrent engineering approach, I hope you must be remembering the word concurrent, which was initially in semester 1. You must have heard this word when you have gone for engineering mechanics subject, and you must have heard about this concurrent forces. So those concurrent forces are nothing but what? Their lines of action, they are intersecting at a common point. Correct? The forces whose lines of action they intersect at a common point, those all forces, we call it as concurrent forces. Similar to this, if you try to see the diagram for this concurrent design approach or concurrent product design approach, concurrent engineering approach, these all processes, whatever are involved in the product design or whatever are involved in product development, these all will be running parallelly. These all will be uh, executed simultaneously, and they all will be always running. It is not like that one will be finished and then second will start. Parallelly, the work for all these processes will be started, will be continued. If required, you can go on modifying the uh, contents of your process based upon what is happening in the next process, because in concurrent engineering you are having a very strong coordination between all these processes. So in the diagram you must be seeing certain arrows. So these arrows, like you have undo and redo in your Microsoft Word, Excel files. So you can redo, you can undo. So it is nothing but recycling or thinking, giving the input from one process to another process, that process to the previous process. So moving backward, moving forward, and it is not only one way path. If you go for the conventional process, it is one way path, right from idea to the final product development or the product going into the market and the final maintenance of your product. So it is a one way process. It is not having two way. There is no interconnection between different activities which are going on. But when you go for concurrent engineering approach, all the activities, they will have a strong coordination between them, and these activities will be executed parallelly. These activities will be executed simultaneously, and because of this, the collaboration between various phases of your product development will be better. The time which is taken by individual activity will get overlapped, and because of that, the total time to market, that will get reduced. So if let us say you want to uh, start with a new product development, you are already into market, you have already certain products which are established, you have some competitors, and you want to start with a new product, you want to launch your new product into market. If you go for conventional product development and design and manufacturing approach, it will take a large time, it will take a huge time to complete your entire process and um, launch your product into market. So that's why nowadays almost all the companies, because of this fierce competition in the global market, they go for this concurrent product design approach or concurrent engineering approach, where all the process they are simultaneously working together, and uh, they are trying to finish the product development process as short as possible and launch the product into market at the earliest before your competitor is launching the product into market. So what this concurrent engineering is all about, this concurrent engineering has emerged as a discipline to help achieve the objectives. What are the objectives? Most important, reduced cost. So as you go for shorter duration of your project development cycle, then definitely your cost will be reduced because the resources you can save. Better quality, the quality of product, it must be improved, it must be better. And improved delivery performance, when you are delivering the product into the market, the performance of your delivery, it must be improved. So these objectives, if you want to achieve, then this concurrent engineering is definitely helping the industries to achieve these particular objectives. This concurrent engineering is perceived as a vehicle for change in the way the products and processes are designed, manufactured, and distributed. So, whenever we think of change management, whenever we think of doing certain changes in your existing products or your existing processes with respect to the design of the products, the manufacturing of the product, the distribution of the product, we must consider this concurrent engineering as the vehicle, as the driving force for executing this change management. This concurrent engineering is a management and engineering philosophy for improving the quality and reducing the costs and lead time from product conception to product development for new products and product modifications. So, this concurrent engineering is not only a management philosophy or it is not only an engineering philosophy, because most of the time engineering philosophies, they are more concerned about the technical aspects of your process or your product, and whenever you go for management philosophies, they are more oriented towards how the process is carried out or how the product is going to be manufactured. So they are less concerned about the technical aspects, but they are more concerned about the processes involved or the sophistication of the processes what you are carrying out. But this particular concurrent engineering is a combination of the philosophies from engineering as well as management. So it is like a package. Person with a bachelor of engineering degree plus having post graduation in management. So if you are having simply engineering fellow, he will not have the management view. He will not have the uh, vision for or the thinking ability with respect to the managerial strategies, managerial aspects. So that is also not important. If I take somebody who is purely a management guy, then he will not be knowing the technical aspects of your product. But if the company is getting a candidate who is engineering graduate with post graduation in management, then that combo pack is a very sellable product in the market, very high value to this particular product in the market, which is combination of management and engineering philosophy. So similar to this, concurrent engineering is also combination of management and engineering philosophy, and this particular combination is working for what? It is working for improving the quality of your product, it is working for reducing the cost of your product, it is working for reducing the lead time from product conception to product development. With respect to what? Either it can be with respect to developing new products or going for the modifications in your existing product. So that is all about your concurrent engineering. This concurrent engineering means that design and development of the product, the associated manufacturing equipment and processes, and the repair tools and processes are handled concurrently. So, in this particular concurrent engineering, the design and development of your product, then manufacturing of the equipment and processes which are associated with your product, the repairing of tools and processes for your product, these all things will be done concurrently, these all will be done simultaneously, and they all are targeted towards the same point, the same focal point, we can say, which is nothing but the improved product and which is coming into market with shortest lead time. The concurrent engineering idea contracts contrasts sharply with current industry sequential practices where the product is first designed and developed, the manufacturing approach is then established, and then the approach to repair is determined. So when we think of the philosophy of sequential manufacturing, sequential practices of manufacturing, then we go for step by step. We go in a sequential manner. We go for step number one, that the product is to be designed, or the idea generation of your product, then design of your product, then you go for development of your product. When you are going for development of your product, then you go for how the product will be manufactured, that approach you are establishing. Then you are going for understanding what will be the probable problems when the product will be in service, and then what type of maintenance work it will be requiring. So that approach you will try to determine at the latter stage, when product will be already ready to launch in the market. So that is nothing but a conventional approach of going for product development and launching the new product into your market. But when we go for this concurrent engineering, these all processes we are trying to integrate, we are trying to do simultaneously. So concurrent engineering is what? It is a systematic approach to the integrated concurrent design of products and their related processes, including manufacture and support. So when we say support, it may be the technical support, it may be the support for your sales, and it may be the support for the maintenance, and normally the term is after sales support. So that kind of support. So these all activities, they are integrated with each other. So this approach is intended to cause the developers from the outset to consider all the elements of product life cycle, from conception to disposal, including the quality, cost, schedule, and user requirements. So whenever we are going for implementation of this concurrent engineering approach, the people who are involved in the product development, so at the beginning itself, at the outset itself, they need to consider who is the end user of your product, what will be their expectations, whether the use of this particular product will be helpful to him, when he will be using this particular product, what probable difficulties he is going to face, whether at what quality, cost, and schedule we are going to deliver this particular product, whether that quality and cost is the requirement of your client or not. If the product is, let us say, the product life cycle is, let us say, for 10 years, how the product will be disposed of, because nowadays this is also a severe problem. Especially, you all are aware that nowadays the environmental aspects, they have become very crucial. The sustainability of your process, sustainability of your product. Launching a product in the market is easier, but when you launch a product in the market, you have to also think in terms of what will be the scenario, what will be the process to dispose the product when it is not functional, when it is not in use. When you are disposing of the product, at that time it should not harm the environment. That care we should take into account. So like, if we are launching a product which is having various parts which are manufactured of plastic, and let us say the product is in working condition for 5 years or 10 years, after 10 years the product will stop working, or the life cycle of your product will get completed, and now it is time that the product should be thrown and it should be replaced by a new product. So whenever you are replacing the old product with new one, the client will have the responsibility that what should be done with this. If I throw it away like this only, the 90% plastics which are used for this, they will be causing harm to the environment. So they should be safely disposed of. So that care, what is going to happen for the disposal of your product after 10 years, after 20 years, that care you have to take when you are designing the product itself. So that is all about your concurrent engineering. You are not thinking only from present day situation point of view, but you will be also trying to think from the future point of view, from the total life cycle of your product point of view up to the disposal of your product. So that is all about the concurrent engineering. Why concurrent engineering? Why it is required? Increasing product variety and technical complexity that prolong the product development process and make it more difficult to predict the impact of design decisions on the functionality and performance of the final product. So now you know the product variety is tremendously increased because the customer is the king. Customer, he wants that every day there must be some new variant, there must be some new flavor to the product which is in market. If your product is not upgraded, if your product is not modified, if your product is not relaunched with the additional features, additional specifications what he wants, then the customer will definitely go to some other competitor and try to take the products from that. So this, the thrust for variety of products, and again the increasing complexity in terms of technical aspects of your product, that is prolonging the product development process, and this is making difficult what to predict what is the impact of your design decisions on your functionality and performance of the final product. So that is why we need this concurrent engineering. Increasing global competitive pressure that results from emerging concept of re-engineering. So when we think in terms of business process re-engineering or re-engineering your manufacturing processes, that is creating a global competitive pressure. And this increase in global competitive, because nowadays you cannot think only from local point of view that I am the only person who is manufacturing this product in this particular region. There is no one else who will be manufacturing this product. So whatever product I will be launching in the market, definitely people are going to buy. That is not the scenario now. Now the scenario is like using the internet. Simply you can click, and from the entire globe, whatever you want, you can order right from sitting at your own home, at your own place. So now there are no boundaries, there are no geographical constraints, there are no constraints for transportation or for delivery of your material. So all the countries, they have signed agreements for exchange of goods or for import and export services. There are a lot of connectivity options available, transportation options available, the logistics and supply chain management, it is in boom. So because of that, always there is competitive pressure across the globe. You cannot ignore the people who are not in your country but globally they are working in that particular field. So always you have to consider their competitive pressure for your organization. The need for rapid response to the fast changing consumer demand. If you fail to give response, if you fail to respond to the changing needs of your customer in faster way, then you will be out of the market. Normally people go for telling the example of Nokia, the company which was not supposed to be but was number one company for mobile handsets some 5-10 years ago in India. But now you can see, if you go to any mobile shoppy and ask for Nokia mobile, you will be the shop owner will be surprised to see that somebody is coming and asking for Nokia mobile. 5-10 years back, people used to go and there was only one brand. Everybody was used to take that product only. Everybody was having a Nokia mobile in hand. But now, as they failed to understand what is the customer demand, what is the customer requirement. What was the customer requirement? Since one SIM card is not sufficient, there must be two SIM cards because of the network connectivity. It is always better that the mobile handset, because handling two handsets will be difficult. So there must be one handset which will be encompassing two SIM cards, so that either of them will be working and the needs of the customer will get satisfied. Second was, they were requiring a camera. They were requiring an operating system which is very easy to handle, like Android. They were requiring the touchscreen. They were requiring that the internet should get connected fast. They were requiring that your all applications like Gmail, your Google Drive, your all office applications, everything. So, in short, the people were requiring a mobile phone which will have two SIM cards for getting network from any one of the SIM cards, the internet connectivity, and that device should work as good as a personal computer and also serve as a good quality camera for taking the photos at different locations. So because Nokia could not respond to this changing customer demand in rapid way, the Nokia was nowhere in the market. Its place was taken by Samsung. Now, if you see again, if you see the market share, now Samsung is also outclassed. There are so many other competitors in the market, and now if you see in a group of 10 people, almost as per my observation, you will find that minimum 5 people will have a Redmi or MI handset. So you will find that the same ringtone, MI ringtone, will be ringing everywhere. This is because they are rapidly responding to the customer change demand. What customer needs, they are predicting it. They are predicting it before somebody else is predicting it and launching the product into market. So that is what is required, and that is only possible when you are going for concurrent engineering. You can launch your product within short period of time with improved quality, with less cost, and with maximum features what the customer is expecting. The need for shorter product life cycle, so that is again, only changing the product is not important. It should be launched at appropriate time before somebody else is launching. Your product should be in market, because the person who or the company who launches it first will definitely get the advantage. Once you are established, and if some other companies are launching their product, that is not going to make much difference on your performance, because already you have gained your profit. You are already reached your break even. Now only you have started earning the profits. So that is the requirement. You should have a very short product life cycle to launch into the market. Large organizations with several departments working on developing numerous products at the same time. So when you have a huge organization, you have several departments in your organization, and these all departments, you have multiple products. Your portfolio is filled with multiple products, and these all departments, they are simultaneously working on development of all these products at a time. All the products, product development simultaneously. Then this concurrent engineering is very very essential, because you can utilize this particular department for several products product development parallelly. If you have a single product, you can, then you may go for a conventional process, sequential process. But when you are having variety of products, huge organization, multiple departments, and number of people working in your organization, always better that you should go for concurrent engineering and utilize the capabilities of all your human and non-human resources to the maximum extent. That is most required. New and innovative technologies emerging at a very high rate, thus causing new product to be technologically obsolete within a short period. So because of the changing technology, the products which are in market, they will get obsolete, they will get they will not be in the market because they will not be able to meet the customer demands. They will not be cope up with the technical requirements of your customer, and that product needs to be scrapped, and that is giving rise the need for your concurrent engineering. So this is the diagram we have seen already. All the functions, they are overlapped, they are simultaneous, and that is making shorter total time to the market in this concurrent approach, concurrent engineering approach towards product design. So today we have discussed about two parts. One is interface coordination, and second is all about the concurrent engineering.